Welcome to the Other Discovery Show, the podcast that's not about podcasts. It's the bonus show from the Podcast Discovery Show where we talk about all the other things that we discovered this week. I'm Kirk.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Josh.
Oh, he's here. The voice from the heavens has arrived.
The voice from the heavens. He's gonna quote you saying that, I'm sure.
That's how I like to be introduced on every meeting that I've ever been in. So thank you for the proper.
Can I be your herald? Will you pay me to be your herald from now on?
Absolutely.
How do you think they would respond to that? If you had like a herald for a meeting?
You know, I just discovered that I want a herald. So that's one of the best things I've ever heard. That's
now entering this Zoom call, the voice from the heavens.
You got to do more. You got to get like 6 or 7 things. You need like
really rattle them
off. So I've got to do like a Knight's Tale, like long.
Yes. That's what. Yeah, he was a herald. He was like the old school hype man.
No.
All right. Well, I'm not coming back.
Well, I'm never coming back then.
I quit again.
You did this to yourself.
I mean, I would have stayed if you had heralded me.
If I could just tell you how many times I've heard that.
I don't even know what that means, but I feel uncomfortable.
Speaking of feeling uncomfortable, guys, I've got a discovery for you guys. Desk ergonomics. So I realized working at home that I'm sitting at my desk for a lot more hours than I was when I worked in an office because I'd be going on meetings and getting up and walking around. But working at home, I'll literally sit at my desk for a lot of the day. And so I started to get a lot of pain in like my upper back and shoulders. And I kept doing like stretches and trying to like identify like how to stretch it out. And I'm like, well, what's causing this? And I started looking at my desk ergonomics and I'm like, I found it. Here's the issue. And so my desk height, I think my body is shaped weird because I have a standard size desk and a standard size desk chair, and my elbows sit farther down than they should to be able to comfortably use my desk. So I was shrugging my shoulders up to be able to have my elbows parallel to the height of my desk. And so that's what was causing all of my upper back pain is while I was working, I was just basically constantly shrugging my shoulders up and probably hunched forward some as well. And so I said, okay, how do I fix this? I said, I need to get my mouse and keyboard so that I can rest my elbows at my side naturally without shrugging my shoulders. And my arms need to go straight and be able to touch my keyboard and mouse. That's the key kind of hand, elbow, arm positioning for desk ergonomics. The other pieces are you want your back to be at like 90 to 110 degrees angle from your hips. And then the other thing is you want your monitor, you want the top 25% of your monitor to be at eye level. So you're able to kind of sit in a neutral position, looking more or less straight forward, and have your everything kind of just resting nicely. And if you have to like lean forward or if you're like hunched over or any of those different things, then over time, it's going to start giving you knots and things are going to cramp up and you can get joint issues and all kinds of stuff. So one of the first things I was looking at is like, okay, how do I get my elbows level? And this is what took me down a journey. And I think this is where the real discovery is because desk ergonomics, everyone's heard of it. But I said, okay, how do I get my mouse and keyboard where they need to be? I said, okay, option one is I can raise my height of my chair. But it was already at maximum height and it wasn't high enough. So I was like, okay, that's not going to work. So I can lower my keyboard and mouse. But I have this massive, I got one of those massive mouse pads that covers like most of your desk.
That's what I got too.
And so I realized there's no keyboard trays that are going to give me enough room that I could like play games and do different stuff like that and use this large mouse pad unless I made a custom one. So I looked into custom keyboard trays and like potentially building one and all that. And then I said, okay, let me look at desks. So I started looking at desk. My desk is standard height. There's not many desks that are shorter than my desk. So I was like, all right, well, that's going to be a pain to try and figure out. There's no cheap or easy way to do that. So I said, all right, let me look at the chair again. What can I do? they have bigger wheels you can get that'll raise it by an inch or two. I said, that may not be enough, and I don't want to spend $40 on rollerblade wheels for my desk chair, and it may not solve my problem. So I said, what else can I do? Apparently, and here's the discovery, the hydraulic press.
There's a discovery here somewhere.
Yeah, have you not been learning? Have you not checked your ergonomics?
I've definitely learned Josh's ergonomic issues.
No, have you not checked your ergonomics? How's your desk ergonomics?
It's all right.
So the hydraulic thing that goes up and down on your chair is standard. Most office chairs use the same size kind of hydraulic gas press. And so you can buy new ones that are longer and have longer reach on them. So I said, okay, great. I'm going to do that. So I bought one and I watch YouTube videos. First, I watch YouTube videos on how hard it is to change it. And they just grab a wrench and they twist it and it pops right out. I was like, great, this will be easy. Nope. Came in the mail the other day and went to twist mine off. I mean, full body weight on a wrench trying to twist this thing, wasn't even budging. Rubber mallet beat the devil out of it. Did not even twitch. And it was both the part where it stuck into my chair and the part where it stuck into the part that has the wheels, the bottom part of the chair. So it was both ends of it were completely seized up and stuck. So I had my wife get me, I just texted her in the middle of the day, hey, can you bring me home a pipe wrench?
Yep. It's a good idea.
Where did she get a pipe wrench?
Home Depot.
Pipe wrench store.
It's like a Mario wrench.
You know, we have plenty of them at work. I was just saying, it sounded like you're like, hey, can you bring me a pipe wrench from your school, please?
No, from Home Depot.
It's a disciplinary thing for teachers.
So I had her bring me home a pipe wrench thinking that would solve my problems. It didn't initially. So basically what I ended up having to do is spray it with WD-40, wait 15 minutes, beat the devil out of it with a rubber mallet. I mean, like, I don't know if you guys have recently done this, but like literally just full force, just bashing something with a hammer is cathartic in some ways. But
we kind of do that regularly at work.
So, I mean, it was like an hour and a half probably hour and a half, 2 hours of me just absolutely bashing this thing with the rubber mallet, spraying it with WD-40, grabbing a wrench, cranking on it. I had to have Kim come in and hold the chair while I was full force, like twerking on the while I was full force torquing on the wrench, and then it finally budged.
It's definitely an image you can't escape.
So what I'm hearing is that Josh was twerking on a wrench, beating the devil out of it so that he could put on his extender.
Exactly.
Is what I'm hearing out of all of this.
And I mean, I got it. I got it out, and I got the new one installed, popped right in, and I can go, my desk chair can go up like an extra like 1.5 feet or 2 feet higher than it needs to now.
2 feet. So you can like tower above your desk.
I mean, it can go way up, but it's and I would show you, but it's only 95% correctly installed. So if I need to raise or lower, my desk chair, the little nubbin at the top that normally presses, it's something about how I set it up. The lever on the chair doesn't press it down hard enough to make it
everything
move up
about
and down.
This story makes me feel uncomfortable.
And so I have to stick a ruler in the back of it above the nubbin and press on the ruler and hit the lever at the same time to make my chair go up or down. So it's set in the right position and I don't need to move it. So I would show you how tall it goes, but it's absurdly tall, like bar stool height.
So like you would be out of frame right now.
Yes. Yeah.
I want that just for that.
It would just be a crotch shot.
No, okay. If you didn't have to like finagle your, what are you calling it? A muggin?
His nubbin.
If you didn't have to finagle your nubbin,
God, I hate this.
It would be an amazing way to enter the shot. So, like for the stream, that's why I want it, because I want to slowly descend frame for the beginning of every stream.
Really would be amazing.
No, the voice from the heavens.
No,
is descending.
I've definitely thought about like, and it's the same thing. It's like, yeah, you spend a lot more time, like, since you can't go out and do anything, essentially, you spend a lot more time in computer chairs, and it makes me really want a new computer chair because I feel like, this one is, I think, too small for me in basically every way possible. So I think I need to get
move around a little bit. See if we can hear it. Is it the noisy one?
Oh, you can't hear it.
I also had to WD-40 my chair for that reason, because I was on Zoom calls at work and it was like anytime I
hear
move.
I hear.
Yep. WD-40 will fix that right up, Zach.
Yeah, I got some. It's like a silicone spray that it's better with metal on metal. So nice. I should just lube it up.
If that's what you're into.
Dang it, guys!
What?
How did explore our ergonomics become more disturbing than explore our bodies?
How is that disturbing? I think you can get your mind out of the gutter.
That's it.
I forgot I was doing explore our bodies. I'll have to bring that back next time I come on.
No, we got mentioned on another show recently about that.
Really?
Did we?
Yeah. No, Keith was telling Gravity Beard about our segment of Explore Our Bodies.
Which one was their favorite? Probably the butt.
I'm sure it was the butt. That was definitely the hardest one to record. And that's the one. Wasn't that the one that Keith asked us to send him the audio for the mixtape? Was the butt?
Yeah, I believe so. That's what went on our pod network mixtape.
Well, yeah, I know a lot more about desk ergonomics, and that's also something I'm interested in. I'm going to go look at chairs soon.
And the crazy thing was I was looking for how do I make my chair go higher? And everyone's like, you can get wheels that'll add an inch. I was like, I want more than an inch. I'm talking about real high. So it took me a significant amount of research and thought and work to get this done. So it was pretty significant. And I hope it helps someone else out.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm going to look into maybe not that. Actually, maybe that and a new chair, because I would descend onto every episode I do of this, where I start, where it's just, you're seeing just the logo of my shirt.
Hey, are you in the market for a Herald?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Sure. Why not?
Okay. All right. I'll have to come up with I'll make a good list. And from now on, when you descend, I'll herald you into the podcast.
Perfect. Sounds like the perfect entry into a show.
Descending from his place on the mountain, the one, the only.
Yeah, pretty much. So I saw this article the other day. Are you guys familiar with Roanoke? Do you remember in middle school where you learn about this? The mysteriously vanishing colony?
I feel like that's a classic middle school history story.
It definitely
There's a colony that just disappeared and no one knows what happened.
And here's the best
thing. They tell you
during
Halloween time because it's a little bit spooky. And so they're like, hey, it's Halloween.
Well, I hope you're ready for that to all be ruined, because somebody has an explanation that's not at all spooky. So for a long time, and this was all in the 1500s, which is why it's steeped in mythology at this point. But there is an author named Scott Dawson who has solved the mystery. He has an explanation, and he says that they were never lost. It was made up and the mystery is over. So basically, there was a local tribe of native peoples nearby where this colony was at. And the short story of it is they went and lived with that tribe. They abandoned their little colony that they had set up because they were having trouble surviving, and just they made friends with the local population, and they left it and they joined their colony. So this is all based off of, there was an archaeological society that began to try to find some evidence of this happening. And they found thousands of artifacts 4 to 6 feet below the surface that show a mix of English and Indian life. Parts of swords and guns that are in the same layer of soil as Indian pottery and arrowheads. And he said in a spot the size of 2 parking spaces, we could find 10,000 pieces of just evidence and things like that. And not only did they find just the mixture of the two, they also found things that were changed to fit it better. So they took their jewelry and they would make it into something else when they went to the other tribe. They would take guns and break them down and use the metal. And they found things that were essentially not just it was left here, but more it was used in the new society that they joined. So there was literally, I think the thing that we all always heard, the thing that made it a little creepy, is there was the tree that just said Croatoan on it, but that is literally a tribe that was also on the Hatteras Island. They thrived once they left because the tribe was well established. They'd been there for a long time. This wasn't a colony for them. This was life. This was where they lived. This was where they were born. This is their entire life. So once they left and settled with the native population, they thrived. They ate well. They had mixed families and endured for generations. And then more than a century later, John Lawson, an explorer, found natives with blue eyes who recounted they had ancestors who could speak out of a book. So like there's all this kind of weird mythology then within them of ancestors who were different, that had different skill sets and looked different than their culture did. So they did things like adapt their earrings into fish hooks, and they were tapping trees with their gun barrels. They would sharpen them, and so they would just tap trees. And so basically it was just really funny to see that kind of we all had this, at least I did, this idea of like, oh, it's this spooky, mysterious thing. Where did they all go? But they literally left a sign saying where they went. They said like, hey, we went with the tribe. We're not here. And then I don't know if they weren't really concerned about where they are. They're like, I don't know what that word means, but they're dead. I don't know exactly how the thought process went that turned it into all of that. But this guy wrote a really cool article about how it kind of was a much happier story than what we were always told to believe in middle school.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. I think there was even an episode of Lore that talked about, the lore behind that. And I think that's where I learned the true story as well, because he told the true story of what actually happened, or what most likely happened, at least. So I found an article today about the youngest British soldier in World War I. He was 12 years old, and he fought in the Battle of the Somme in 1916. Did I say that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. So apparently this was a thing that would happen a lot. A lot of young kids would fake their age, but this kid was one of the youngest ones that they ever found out. It says he was sent to the front lines, and his actual age was not found out until he began crying during heavy shelling and was taken before an officer of his regiment to reveal his young age.
I'm just saying, a 12-year-old, though, come on. Like, oh, I thought that dude was 30, said no one ever. Like,
I think they were recruiting people at 16.
They were, yeah. No, and I heard a really interesting bonus one. I'm not trying to sidetrack you. They made the movie Apocalypse Now about Vietnam, and that was another one where some people would lie, and there was really young kids over in Vietnam. But when they shot the movie Apocalypse Now, they wanted young kids in it, and Lawrence Fishburne's in it as like an 18-year-old, I think is the premise. But Lawrence Fishburne lied about his age and was actually 14 when he shot the movie.
It's very meta.
That is very meta. This kid, Sidney Lewis, was a different kid, which was one of the youngest as well. He fought in the Battle of Somme as well. He fought in the Battle of Devil Wood, which saw some of the worst casualties during that battle. He got a victory medal and the British War Medal. And then he re-enlisted to go to another war later on. It's just, I don't know. I keep thinking, because this is like 2 years older than my daughter. It feels like, how the hell did this kid get on the front lines of one of the bloodiest wars of all time? And how did he get through it? Because he got through, like, I think 2 or 3 different wars that he went through, because he apparently loved going to war, and he just kept going to different ones.
I don't know.
I mean, it's
eventually he was old enough.
Yeah, eventually you could get in there for real.
It's very different times. People used to get married at like 14, 15, 16 years old. Like, it's our kids grow up a lot slower and have more of a childhood and a ramp up to growing up to adult life now. Which, I mean, I think it's good because we can kind of savor that childhood and them being young and somewhat innocent, and having that kind of freedom of being a child, and allowing them to really relish in that, instead of saying, all right, you're 9, go chop wood.
this is one of those, one of those stories where you kind of realize things kind of suck right now, but they were way worse before.
Yeah.
And they could be way worse. It even talks about the British Army recruited 250,000 boys under 18 during World War One. This was in a BBC documentary that they did in 2014.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
It's a lot of boys.
A lot of little boys.
It's just
with guns. Scary.
It's just weird to think about times when there was a world war, because people were literally afraid that somebody was going to take over and essentially extinguish any other way of life. So rules did not apply.
Yeah. There's bigger things at stake.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the British Isles, just the other day,
things right across the pond,
we talked to Robbie and Giles from the Filmmakers podcast for a thing we're doing for Podfix, and we asked them to give us a couple movie discoveries that we could play on the other Discovery show.
We told them, hey guys, we have a movie correspondent, but we haven't got any responses from him lately. So do you have anything for us? And so we got something for him.
How can you call him out like that? That's so mean.
No, they did too. Is that part of this clip?
Mm-mm.
Dang it. We need that special sound clip that you'll hear one day, but apparently not yet.
It'll be next week.
Teaser.
But yeah, so we asked him for a movie recommendation, and here it is.
Hi, this is Robbie from the Filmmakers podcast, and Zach and Kirk asked us to give some deep cut film recommendations. So if you haven't checked it out already, I highly recommend The Old Guard on Netflix, which is a new film by Gina Prince Bythewood, who is an amazing director, and the film was shot in the UK, mostly in Shepperton Studios, using a lot of nice European locations as well. And it's just a really cool modern example of a reinvention of the action genre. So I highly recommend you check that out.
Yeah, so this is called The Old Guard. I haven't ever heard of this. Have you guys?
Yes, that's the one with Charlize Theron on Netflix, right?
It is on Netflix.
I believe I think I'm thinking the right one, and I hope I'm naming the right actress.
I would look it up, but I think it's better if we just don't know. I mean, I've thought about even playing
I'm
the
probably
trailer.
going to watch it because it sounds good. It already sounds interesting.
If it's the one I'm thinking of, she has an axe and it looks awesome.
That sounds kind of like the right thing. He said it redefines the action genre, so might be the one. And yeah, if that is the one, then I have heard some good stuff about it as well. So yeah, check that out. Thanks. Huge shout out to Filmmakers podcast. If you have any interest in making films or just the process, it's a really, really cool show.
And they're really fun guys. Doing that interview, we picked some people that we respected but didn't know a lot about, because we know Keith, we know Paul, we know the folks at Gravity Beard, but we wanted to kind of get to know and become friends with some new people, and so we picked them. And like I said on the interview, I think we're best friends now.
Yeah, we really did have a great time.
And you're talking about knowing them in the biblical sense, correct?
Yes,
of course.
100%. That's exactly what we were looking for out of an interview.
What does that mean again, Josh?
Oh, So something that's frustrating and good, I think, at the same time, is that Instagram has gotten remarkably good at advertising. I don't know if you all have noticed this, that
they have.
When the ads pop up when you're on Instagram, 60% of the time I'm like, that looks interesting, but it's an ad, so I don't want to waste my time on it. But I actually saw one the other day of, it's called Zero Brew. And what it is cacao beans ground up that you brew like coffee. And so I clicked on it. I was like, what is this? Because I like coffee and I like drinking hot beverages. Yeah. And chocolate. I love chocolate. I've been on a chocolate kick too. That's a whole nother story. But so I was like, this is awesome. And basically I said, all right, I'm going to dive into this. But I was looking into it, and apparently chocolate is a superfood, which was something that I'd heard a couple of times recently. But on their website, they have a ton of information on here about the different things in coffee that are like what makes it good. And you get all of the natural oils and everything from the cacao beans because it's not processed. They literally just grind it up and throw it in a bag and you brew it. So you're getting like all the goodness from coffee. Whereas if you use like cocoa powder, then it's a lot more processed and some of that good stuff isn't in it anymore. And so the difference between cacao and cocoa, first of all, is cocoa is a more processed version of cacao. So once you process it down, then it becomes cocoa. So that's how you get like hot cocoa and cocoa powder and all those things. But in cacao, you've got one of the highest concentrations of antioxidants of any food in the world. You've got magnesium, which supports heart, brain, and bone health. You've got mood enhancers. So it's got
Anaphylactic shock.
Nope. It's got anandamide, serotonin, PEA, and tryptophan. PEA is also known as the love drug. Anandamide is known as the bliss chemical. And serotonin is a, quote, feel-good brain chemical.
Who named these chemicals?
That's what's in turkey that's supposed to make you take a nap, right?
I don't know.
It definitely is. Yes, that's what's in turkeys that makes you sleepy on Thanksgiving.
It gives you the itis?
Yeah.
So it's got all these things in it, and then it also has
I looked it up because I'm like, I remember hearing about that, and it's because I remember it coming out not that long ago about the thing that makes you sleepy on Thanksgiving.
And then the last thing it has in it is it has it doesn't have much caffeine. It's like mostly caffeine free, but it has theobromine, but it's basically like a longer lasting, milder energy. So they say this is all their marketing material. So I like bought this hook, line, and sinker, but I ordered it like last week and it came in today and I brewed a couple cups and it tastes like hot cocoa. It's 0 calories except for whatever creamer and sweeteners you put into it. And it's really good. It's somewhere between like coffee and hot cocoa. And
that sounds good.
It's really good. And it definitely like gives me energy. Like it gave me like the I think they call it like an exothermic reaction where you get like warm from energy. You know what I'm talking about? Where if you drink too much caffeine, you get warm and sweaty.
Start sweating. Yeah.
So it wasn't like just purely sweaty, but it definitely like it was a little felt sweaty. Like warmed up and had like some good energy from it. And definitely recommend it. It's phenomenal stuff. And they've got like pumpkin spice flavor where they have like different like flavors and stuff in them. They've got all kinds of different flavors, and they do a lot of like single origin, like they do coffee, where they source all their beans from like a certain, or I guess they're still beans. They source their beans from a certain area, so they have like single origin, like Ghana and Costa Rica and different things like that.
Yeah, cacao's really weird. It's in like a giant fleshy looking fruit. It's disturbing looking.
It is weird looking.
And Twigs, please don't bring up pumpkin spice. Josh is so into it.
I'm very into it. Yeah, pumpkin spice lattes came back this week. So I'm getting a pumpkin spice cold foam cold brew tomorrow morning.
I've never been big into it. I'm not a hater on it, but it is one of those things. It's like you see it around you so much that you become like the Karen. It's like no more. I don't really care.
See, Kirk, I only take that. Actually, I don't take that at all from you because Christmas starts in September for you. So I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
we're just around the corner from Christmas, everybody.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
3 days till Christmas.
Christmas lights out.
Kirk put his Christmas tree up yesterday.
I hate you all.
But yeah, no, I really want to try some of that cacao coffee. That sounds amazing.
I got a bunch of it. When I give you your vinyl holders, I'll send some along with you.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see you sometime in the next week or so. So I found a smartphone, and it's not produced by any of the major manufacturers. It's by some, I think it's called Pine Phone, and it's by Pine64, who I've never heard of. But here's the thing that was weird. They have physical kill switches for the modem, the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, the microphone, the rear camera, the front camera, and the headphone jack. You can literally hard kill switch the power to any of those things. And it has normal hardware and everything. I think they're using Linux I think a lot of people that are doing anything that's not an Android or a Mac phone, they're using Linux, So I think the hardware is okay, everything like that. But the interesting thing to me was these physical kill switches, because we're starting to see people having little camera covers for their laptops and for their phones too. And most phones have the ability to turn off a lot of things, but the question is it actually turned off? On this, it's a physical kill switch. The power is off to it. The power is not going to it. And my question is, would you guys be interested in that kind of functionality? Is that something you worry about with your devices?
Not in my line of work. I mean, I don't have anything there's nothing about what I do or who I am that I need that level of privacy. However, if I were in a different line of work, if I were working in some sort of intelligence agency or in cybersecurity, because those groups, there's a lot of like shenanigans, I think, in cybersecurity groups. So if you're running with those groups, I think if you go to like, I think DEF CON is like their big convention, and apparently you have to like turn your phone off when you go in there, or that you will get your phone like hacked.
I probably wouldn't even bring my phone. I'd leave it in my car.
Yeah, no, it's funny, Zach. I've actually seen they have laptops like this too. It has
kill
physical
switches?
kill switches on all those same things, so you can kind of turn those things off. And I think it's very much for kind of like cybersecurity and cyber intel type of stuff. Is a lot of times when they're doing that.
No, and I mean, okay, on the less like, it's not like, oh, they're watching us to try and do something painful. I think for the vast majority, not that it makes it okay, but the vast majority of data mining right now is to try and make us spend money. So not all of it, obviously, because we've seen the stuff with Cambridge Analytica and them using essentially everything about your life on Facebook to really try to affect how you're voting and your political leanings and things like that. And that stuff's just for sale. But like, I think the vast majority is advertising. It's trying to get us to buy things. And so then you have things like the Google Home stuff. You have the things like the Amazon stuff that has active listening. So you have these things that are listening to you. And I've definitely heard conspiracy theories. I kind of want to try it out, where if you start talking about a random item around these active listening devices, they'll pick it up and they'll try and sell it to you on your web browsing.
The easiest test I've seen that people do is they'll play Spanish radio next to those and see if you start getting adverts in Spanish.
So I listened to a whole episode of Reply All, and they were talking about this. And apparently there's no empirical evidence aside from just anecdotal evidence that they're listening to us all the time and then make ads based off of it, which was interesting because it was funny because Alex was the one that did all the research and stuff. And he's like, I just don't, we found nothing, and I don't think there's anything. And no one believed him. Nobody. And they got all of these people that would call in and PJ's like, well, convince one person. And he couldn't convince one person that Facebook and Instagram and all these places were not listening to them all the time.
No, and that's what I'm saying. We make it easier than that because Facebook they don't have to listen to you through our devices. They literally can look at your web history. They advertise to you based on what your web searches are. And like, that's what I'm saying is like, instead of it being some kind of like ultra malicious thing where they're trying to do weird kind of like high level destroy your life things, I think they're trying to make people spend money for the vast majority of the time and the vast majority of what they're doing. So yeah, I don't necessarily need physical kill switches, but it'd be cool if every phone had it so I could just do it.
Yeah.
It is interesting that it exists. Because there are, I will say, listening to shows like Reply All, it made me realize how easy it is. Very easy to like hack all of your information.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's too easy to the point where it is very scary if you actually learn about it and think about it, because it can happen very easily. But luckily for us, we're just regular folks that no one really wants to
Yeah, they wouldn't really benefit.
But they could
if
they wanted to. And that's what's scary.
I mean, you can go online and in like 5 to 10 minutes find a setup to do Wi-Fi spoofing. So you can go to a coffee shop and set up a fake Wi-Fi that looks like the Starbucks Wi-Fi, have people connect to it, and then you have all of their traffic and all of their stuff that they're sending is directly into your database.
I'm always paranoid connecting to public Wi-Fi networks for sure.
That's why you got to use a VPN. So a VPN basically sends encrypted stuff to that. So all that they would get if they were doing that is encrypted data, and then it's decrypted on the other end. And then it sends back encrypted stuff and then decrypted on your device. So that's why VPNs are really critical. And a lot of phones have built-in VPNs to them now, so you can do some of that stuff without worrying.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. So on a completely different note, I read this article, and I had heard about this guy, but I don't think we ever talked about him on the show. It's a Florida man story, and this guy made a hoax that was a big deal in Florida. I had never heard of it, but apparently it was a big deal for decades. And it was right here in Clearwater. He just passed away, and that's kind of where the story came out, that he was the one that did it. But the story, his last name was Signorini. His legacy dates back to February 1948, when Clearwater was tiny, only had like 15,000 people, and it wasn't like a giant tourist trap like it is now. But one morning, a beachgoer discovered strange 3-toed footprints in the sand. They waded ashore, continued 2 miles through the dunes, and then disappeared back into the surf. The prints were huge, 14 inches long and 11 inches wide. Whatever left them appeared to have a stride of 4 to 6 feet, like long, or distant from each other.
Long.
Soon, the mysterious tracks, basically they were all over the Gulf Coast, like Honeymoon Island, St. Pete Beach, all up and down the Gulf Coast of Florida, to the point where they did an article in Time magazine about this phenomenon. And they said, this is an excerpt from that. Are the tracks really those of some weird, gigantic animal, a water-dwelling monstrosity that time forgot? That's from the Time article. The public reaction was split between door barricading panic and puzzled skepticism, because people.
Yep.
But basically, they even interviewed scientists and stuff, and it came down, and some of them believed it, that there was a species of giant penguin that was living in Florida, and it was very akin to like the Loch Ness monster and stuff like that. It got a big deal for a good bit, and then they went away for a long time, and they came back, which was even funnier because he would do it again. But he went through so much effort to do this prank, and he never came forward for a very long time. And he would walk miles in these giant, that he made them at home. They were like lead feet, like look like a penguin with like the what's the sneakers that like skateboarders and stuff use?
Vans.
Yeah, they look like old Vans, like attached to the top of them. But when he would do it, he would like jump from one foot to the other, so it would look like it had this long stride. He would do that for miles.
Why?
Because this dude was a prankster. It's a great story. I'm gonna link the article real quick so that everybody that's in chat can see it. But Florida man, only in Florida, man.
I mean, that's amazing commitment. Like that
really is.
I mean, if you're gonna go in. Like that's phenomenal. I respect that and I love it.
It was great.
Yeah, you're right. It is definitely a commitment to a ridiculous prank. But I think that if people are like, oh, there's giant 12-foot tall penguins, I'd be like, that seems weird. Seems weird. But what can you do? But yeah, that's all the random things we've discovered throughout the week. If you have anything you've discovered throughout the week, get in touch with us and let us know what it is. We have a podcast or a Facebook
We
group.
have a podcast.
I was going to say a podcast group. We have a Facebook group called the Podcast Discovery Club where you could just share this stuff all the time. Kirk is always sharing cool stuff on there. Keith, a lot of the people we've mentioned in this episode are sharing cool stuff on there. It's a great way to discover new things. You can follow us on Twitter, on our YouTube, on Twitch, and if you could hit follow on whichever of these things you're watching on, we would greatly appreciate it. It helps out the show a lot.
Yeah, we are trying to get up to 50 followers over on Twitch so that we can be affiliate on there and, make some strides in that direction. So if you can, just hit that follow button. Doesn't cost a dime, but we'd really appreciate it. It'd mean the world to us.
So yeah, thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye.
This was a podcast from the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.